Hi, this is Tim Yoder with Fit Small Business. Today I am going to review Sunrise accounting software based on Chapter 2 of the Fit Small Business case study. So let's get started. Record a utility bill dated January 10th, 2021 from New York City Electric Company for $150 that is due on the 20th. Sign the expense to the admin class. Okay, so Um, First, let's go here to our expenses, record expenses. Now, we're going to need to be able to set up a vendor, obviously, but let's see if we can do that on the go here. So, for the vendor, we need to have New York City Electric Company. Yes, it looks like it'll let us create it on the fly. Okay, good. So we could input all the additional information, including email if we need it. We don't need that, but that's where you do it. So it lets you set up the vendor on the fly. That's very good. The expense was on January 10th. And it was paid. Actually, it is not paid yet, so let me back that up. It is due on January 20th. Oh, gotta change it to January. Okay, very good. So it let us record an expense one date with a due another date. That's fantastic. Description, electric bill, expense. Let's see if they have one for utilities. Yes, looks like they've given us a default account for utilities and $150. Okay, was there anything else? It asks us, can you attach a copy of the receipt? We can see there's an upload receipt button. We can also just drag a receipt here. So we don't have a receipt for this, so we can't really test it, but we can see that it is possible. Can you send the receipt through a mobile app? Well, let's take a look. So let's go ahead and approve this expense. Okay, and you can send them through their mobile app. Again, we don't have anything to actually test it, but under options here in our receipt capture tools, you can see that they do have Sunrise Receipt is the name of the app, and you can use that to submit receipts. And I think that'll just take us to the Apple Store, so we don't need to see that. Again, we don't have a receipt for this step to give it a try, but we can see, yes, you can submit receipts and attach them. Okay, so let me complete the rubric here. So create a vendor was no problem. Record an expense without paying was no problem. Record an expense due date, no problem. Attach a copy of the receipt, no problem. Send it through the receipt through an app, no problem. Great. Okay, so Sunrise scored perfectly in that first part of Chapter 2. So now it asks us record the purchase of a miter saw from Lowe's by uploading this receipt. And it gives us a copy of the receipt in the case study. So let me open that receipt. Again, this is off of your screen, but I'm opening the receipt, and I am going to quickly download a copy here so that I can transfer it over here. So let's go back to our record expenses screen. Now let's okay, so let's go to upload receipt. Well, I don't want to do it that way. Let's see, can I just click and drag this receipt? Here we go, yeah, drop files here to upload. So it's attaching the receipt. It's pretty slow. I have fairly fast internet, I'm surprised. Tell you what, let's go to edit, see what happens. Seems to be having trouble with that. That's interesting. I wonder if we can cancel this and try it again. Let's try this a different way. Let's upload receipt. Emailed receipt. See if that makes any difference. I tell you what, let's move on. We'll come back and see if this ever gets uploaded. Okay, let's just skip over this for now. Record a recurring monthly expense of $150 for telephone service. It's automatically deducted every the 5th of each month. So we want to create a recurring expense. So create an expense. Again, we need a new vendor name. It doesn't give us a name. We'll just call it New York City Telephone. The expense date is the 5th of every month. And this one has been paid from checking on the same day. That's fine. This is for telephone. Expense category, well, let's put it to utilities. We could probably put it to office expenses as well for $150. Okay, now do we have anywhere to allow us to make this a recurring expense? I don't believe so. I don't see anything here. Okay, so let's go ahead and, you know what, let's give this little AI chat a try. How to record a recurring monthly expense. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm pretty confident you cannot do this on Sunrise, so I'm going to go ahead and approve the one-time expense. We're just going to have to go in and actually record it every month, unfortunately. Go to the old sticky note method. But before we give completely up, let me look just a little bit more. Transactions, no, nothing really here. Actually, new transaction. Now these are for kind of manual transactions. Settings. Make sure we don't have to enable something. No, I don't see anything that we could enable. Okay, so going back to our rubric here, can you create a recurring expense? The answer is no. Okay, now let's go back and see how our receipt reading is going here. Well, I tell you what, it does not. I'm going to say it doesn't work. So let's do it a different way. Let's do it. Let's create the expense and then see if we can attach it. So the vendor is Lowe's. The expense date doesn't tell us. Actually, let's see. Tell you what, it's the receipt is actually August 14th, but that doesn't really line up with our case study. So let's do January 14th, paid at the same time from checking. This was for a saw. Let's see if we have something for tools. I'll tell you you what, let's go ahead and create an expense account for tools. And this is a expense, an account number, let's call it 6001 for 30109. Again, getting all this information off of that receipt attached to the case study. Okay, now let's see if we can upload a receipt from here. You know, I use this program personally for just my own kind of personal expenses. And it usually has no problem uploading a receipt. So it might be something to do with the fact that I'm running this video program. So I'm going to explore it a little bit more on my own once I shut all the video stuff off, and then I might go back and grade the rubric. But for right now, is the receipt read and transaction created or just attached? I'm going to put a 0 because I don't know if it's going to read it or not. But I'm going to go back and explore it before, and I know this generally where you create a transaction and you attach the image. I know that works because I do that all the time. So I think it might be because I have this video software running. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and approve this. Okay, moving on in the tutorial, in the case study. Set up an inventory item for plumbing widgets. So inventory items are good. A lot of programs use them. One of the benefits is that you can just enter the item on an invoice, and it'll put all the details without having to retype it every time. So here under My Business's product, create product. Name of the product is plumbing widgets. Okay. So we can put a description here that'll be what shows on all invoices, and so we're just going to call them again plumbing widgets. That's what's going to show up on the invoices. When we sell a plumbing widget, what revenue category do we want it to go to? We'll just take it to gross receipts. Sales tax. Do we want this to be subject to sales tax? What does the when we sell widgets, I got to go down further in the program here. Yes, we do want this to be subject to sales tax. So we'll just say normal sales tax. The price, I believe this is the, well, it's not even clear here. Are they looking for the price we're selling it for or the price we're buying it for? It looks to me like the price we're selling it for, since it's just asking for a revenue category, doesn't ask anywhere for a cost category. So I'm going to put the price that we generally sell it for. It looks like we sell it for about $25. Again, had to kind of peek ahead in the case study. Okay, looks like we have the option to upload an image if we want. We don't, so we just want to save that. So we were able to create a plumbing widgets inventory item. Okay, now we want to record a purchase order. So a purchase order is when we send a basically request. We put in an order with a vendor for plumbing widgets. So we can go to record expenses. But all these are expenses. There's no way to record a purchase order. We can only record it once it becomes an expense, and that's when we receive it, when we receive an invoice. So there is no way to record a purchase order, so I'm going to put a 0 here in the rubric. Convert purchase order to bill. That's a 0 because we can't convert the purchase order to a bill. Okay, so going back to the case study, so it says record a purchase order on 1/5 for 150 plumbing widgets from the widgets guy at $10 per widget. We know we can't do that. We can't record purchase orders. On 1/15/2021, you received 100 of the widgets ordered for $10 per unit. The invoice is dated 1/14 and due 1/24. Okay, so we received the invoice on the invoice is dated 1/14. So we're going to record an expense, create expense. The vendor is the widgets guy. The expense date is the 14th. And it is due on the 24th. Okay, so in description, we'll put 150 plumbing widgets at $10 each. Okay. Actually, no, 150 was the purchase order. We only received 100 of them. So let's back up. 100 plumbing widgets. Okay, so expense category. Well, if the program had a good inventory accounting system, we could actually show here that we received 100 of the plumbing widgets that we just set up an inventory item for. But Sunrise does not have good inventory accounting, and so the only thing, let's click the advanced, the only options we have here are just our accounts. All right, so we have our bank accounts, cost of goods sold, credit card, current assets, current liabilities, equities, expenses, non-current liabilities, fixed assets, other revenue, sales tax liabilities. So nowhere does it give us the option to record it to an item, and that's a big problem for inventory. So we can't, nothing here is keeping track of the number, the cost of goods sold. Okay, so in our expense category, we're going to do the best we can, which is to record it to inventory. But nothing's keeping track of the fact that for this $1,000 we have 100 units. So that's a big problem. So the purchase price was $1,000, and we are going to record that. Okay. So now it asks us to view inventory units available and on purchase order. No way to do that because nothing in this program is tracking units. On 1/25, you receive the remaining widgets but at a price of $11 per unit. The invoice is dated 1/24 and due 2/3. So we create another expense to the widgets guy. The expense date is 1/24. It is due on 2/3. It is for 50 widgets. Expense category. Again, all we can do is book it to inventory. So 50 widgets at $11. Book it to inventory. And that would be what? $550. Okay? And so let's approve it. Okay. Good. So we have no way of viewing what's in inventory, right? I mean, we can look at our trial balance here and we can see that in inventory we have 1,550 and we know there's 150 units, but we only know 150 units because this is an incredibly simple case study, right? There's no way to know what the per unit cost is of this inventory because it's not keeping track of the quantity of the inventory. So when we sell some of this inventory, it's not going to have any idea how much that inventory costs. We're going to have to do that manually in a spreadsheet or something. Okay, so Sunrise is not good at all with inventory. You really need to avoid it if you have inventory. Okay, so let's go into the rubric here. Create bill for the purchase of the inventory. Yes, we were able to do that. View inventory available? No. View inventory on purchase order? No. View total cost of inventory on hand? We were able to do that by looking at the trial balance. And then view total units of inventory on hand, and we cannot do that. Okay, good. I'm going to add some more to the rubric here. Actually, no, that's fine. Okay, let's move on. The next section, record the following expenses for a project for your customer family bowling. Name the project bathroom renovation. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to create a customer. So that's kind of jumping ahead to our accounts receivable stuff. But let's go ahead and go into contacts. I think this is where, so this shows the vendors we've set up so far. I think if we create a contact, we can create a customer. This is family bowling. And this is not a vendor, it's a customer. Okay, save. Now we need to create a project, right? So family bowling, we're going to have, they're a common customer. We have a whole bunch of projects. We want to create a project for them called bathroom renovation. Well, there's no way to do that in Sunrise. Okay, so everything's just going to get charged to bowling. There's no way to do that in Sunrise. So go on and do what we can here. So the next thing, on January 15th, you pay Hank independent for contract work. You pay Hank $30 per hour for 40 hours, but will eventually bill your customer $80 per hour for his service. Record this information in an item if possible. Okay, so let's go back down here in the products. Let's see if we can create a product. Let's call this plumbing labor. And we're going to call this labor for installation of plumbing system. Again, this is what's going to show up on the invoice when we invoice for plumbing labor. So where do we want that to go? Let's just put it with gross receipts. The labor, let's see if we're... So we're saying in the next part that when we collect revenue on labor, it's not subject to any sales tax. We can't tell it not to collect sales tax. Okay, well, we'll just keep that the same, deal with it later. And the unit price for the sale of the labor, it says you will eventually bill your customer $80 per hour. Okay, so this is as good as we can do setting up a service item in Sunrise. Better programs will allow you to actually put the amount you're paying in here along with the markup percentage or the amount you want to bill, so that you can use this item in both purchasing the service and selling the service. Just like you could with inventory items, you could use them for purchasing and selling. Here, the items really don't do anything in Sunrise other than make it easy to add them to an invoice. They don't get used when you purchase the items, only when you sell the items. So they're really only kind of half as useful as they should be. Okay, so let's save the plumbing labor. Okay, we also need to set up a vendor. So Hank Independent is an independent contractor. So let's set up a vendor for him. Create contact. He is Hank Independent. And he is a vendor. Now, it would be very nice, because he's an independent contractor, it'd be very nice if we could indicate that he is a 1099 contractor. So we'll put a tax ID and number in here. He's an independent contractor, so we'll have to issue him a 1099. Okay. But I don't see anywhere in here where we can specify that he's an independent contractor, but we'll deal with that in that section later. Okay. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do what it said. Let's record the bill here. So let's go back to expenses. Create an expense to Hank Independent on 115. It's paid on the same date from checking. Okay. And so under description, I guess here we can put bathroom, we can put family bowling bathroom renovation, but that doesn't do us a whole lot of good. It's not going to, classify it separately from other expenses. Expense category is our cost of goods sold labor. And that is $1,200, $30 an hour. Okay. Unfortunately, here we have no way to charge this to family bowling. We have no way to show that this is an expense that we want to pass through to the customer. So more complete accounting software, you would be able to assign it to family bowling, bathroom renovation, specify that you want to pass this expense through, and then when you create an invoice, you'll actually have it available to add to the invoice. But here we're just going to have to keep track of this manually, probably on another spreadsheet. Let's go ahead and approve it. Okay, let's create another expense. We have a permit fee, so we're just going to say this permit fee was to New York City. Create them as a vendor. The expense date was on 1/5. Looks like we paid it immediately. Okay, so again, we'll just have to type it in here. So this is family bowling, bathroom renovation, expense category, cost of goods sold, other costs. Okay, and let's add to this permit. Again, those descriptions do us very little good. I mean, I guess we can look through the general ledger and find them, but we need a program that actually classifies this stuff together. This was $200, and again, there's not going to be any way for us to be reminded to add that to an invoice. Just got to keep it on a spreadsheet, I guess. Okay, so we've gotten through that step. Let's grade us on our rubric here. Create a project. We were not able to create a project. Create an independent contractor and track for 1099 payments. We were not able to do that. We created him as a vendor, but there's no way to tell Sunrise that it's an independent contractor, so that we're going to want to issue a 1099. Create a service item. I guess I'll give us credit for the service item, even though it doesn't really operate as both an expense and a revenue, only as the revenue. Set default cost for service item. We were not able to set the cost. We were able to set the default sales price, so I'll give them a point for that. Pay the independent users using the service item. We were not able to use service items on expenses. Designate the payment to the independent contractor as billable to the customer. We were not able to do that. Designate the payment as billable to a project. We were not able to do that. Okay, so did not score very well on that. So Sunrise is not great for project accounting. Okay, so now kind of a little bit more summary things here for a second. So it wants to view the expenses incurred but not yet invoiced to the family bowling restroom renovation. Well, so expenses incurred but not yet invoiced. Well, we have no way to do that because there's no way to specify the expenses need to be invoiced, and so we can't do that. Okay, view the unpaid bills. Now we can do that. So here we're at our record expenses screen. Here are our unpaid bills of $1,700. Okay, so we have the two bills from the widgets guy we haven't paid yet, and we have our electric bill. Okay, excellent. View a list of vendors. We can do that down here under contacts, vendors. Okay, so we can view our list of vendors. That's good. View unpaid bills by vendor. Well, that's not as good, is it? Because we know we owe money to the widgets guy, but there's nothing here about how much we owe. So let's go back up to expenses. And if we look at our unpaid widgets, all right, so I mean we could go through here and manually add up how much we owe to each vendor, but there's nothing here that shows us a summary of how much we owe by vendor. So that's no good. Okay, let's see if reports has something like that. Profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow, sales tax, tax assist, and exports. Nope. Okay, so I'm not seeing anything here that is going to give you a list of what you owe by vendor. View a list of transactions by vendor. No, I think if we go to transactions here, it'll actually show us all of our transactions, but vendor is not one of the items we can sort by here, or does it group things together by vendor. So we can't do that. Review unpaid bills by vendor. We've already looked for that. We can't do that. Okay, so let's grade Sunrise on these items. So view unpaid bills. We can do that. Okay, I need to make my rubric here a little more complete, so I'm going to pause for just a second. Okay, I'm back. So recording again these things in our rubric here. So view a list of vendors. We could do that. Review unpaid bills summarized by vendor. We weren't able to summarize them by vendor. And we couldn't look at transactions by vendor. So you can look at bills, you can look in transactions as a whole, but you can't summarize them by vendor. So that'd be very useful to be able to do that. Okay, next thing the case study asks us to do, record an electronic payment of the utility bill on January 20th. So let's go to expenses. Let's look at our unpaid expenses. And we have this utility bill of $150. And it wants us to pay that with a electronic payment. Okay. So nice, it brings up the unpaid bill with an enter payment box. That's very nice. Enter payment. We are going to pay it on January 20th, the case study tells us. From the checking account, amount $150. Now, one thing I don't like here is it doesn't give us anywhere we can code how it was paid. If it was paid with a check, it would be very nice to put in the check number here. If it's an electronic payment, it'd be very nice to maybe denote EFT, but it gives us no place to enter any sort of explanation here. But it does let us enter the payment, so let's do that. So that bill is paid. Now if we go back to expenses, we can see that amount is now out of the unpaid bills. Okay, so record e-payment of bill. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 1 for that as acceptable. Okay, the next thing it asks us to do is to pay the $1,000 owed to the widgets guy on 1/24/2021 with a check. So we want to pay the $1,000. So that's this $1,000 bill. Enter payment. Oh, well, this is pretty nice. Look at this. So this is a little unexpected. We can actually pay multiple bills from the widgets guy, but we just want to pay the one bill. Okay, that's surprising, but that's a very nice feature. Okay, so let's go back to, we're paying it on 124, paying it with a check. But again, the problem here, it doesn't give us any way to record the check number, let alone print the check, right? So what we really wanted to do here, it says pay it with a check. We want to print a check from our accounting program. Well, we can't do that with Sunrise. You can't even record a check number, let alone record a check. So we'll enter the payment. This is the best we can do, but we cannot write a check. So we're going to have to write a check by hand and then send it in, and we can't even record the check number for this payment. So that is not at all good. I suppose you could use this timeline over here. You could write in a comment of which check number it is, but again, that's not going to show up in your general ledger as a description in order to kind of match checks with your checking account statement. So not very good. Okay, so the rubric here says pay bill with check. I'm going to actually say print check from program, and it failed on that. And then I'm going to put another line in for record check number in register, and we weren't able to do that as well. Okay. Okay, on 2/12/2021, we returned one plumbing widget to the widgets guy, so we had a defective widget, and we get a refund of $11. The widget guy issues a credit that can be applied toward future purchases. Okay, so we need to record the return of one widget. So let's start under expenses here. Instead of an expense, can we record a credit? Here we go. Create a credit note for expense. Okay, this was the widgets guy. The credit date is 2/12. Okay. Description, credit for one widget at $11. Expense category, inventory. Again, this isn't going to help us keep track of our cost per unit in inventory at all. It just keeps the total inventory amount. And so this credit is going to be $11. Okay, and so let's approve that. Now, if we look in our unpaid bills, we're actually going to see this credit as an unpaid bill. Okay, very good. So, good. So in our rubric, we're going to say, so under the record a credit from the vendor, we were successful at that. It says decrease the inventory for the units returned to the vendor. We can't keep track of units, and so that was not successful. Okay, the last step for this chapter, on February 15th, purchased 10 plumbing units for $11 each. Okay, and then we want to issue a check for that bill, but after applying the $11 credit towards the purchase. Okay, and I think we're going to be able to do this in Sunrise. So let's create an expense. And this was to the widgets guy on February 15th. We are going to pay it, but we're going to have to do the payment in a separate step because we need to apply the credit. Due, I'm just going to say it doesn't specify, but I'm going to say it's due in 10 days later on the 25th. Description is 10 widgets at $11 each. Inventory, again, we can't keep track of units, unfortunately, and this is going to be $110. Okay, let's approve this. Okay, now we want to issue a check paying that $110, but after applying the $11 credit. So I think this is going to work. So we're going to, in our unpaid bills, we have 10 widgets at $11. And now we want to enter a payment. And here it gives us all of the outstanding transactions. Oh, it doesn't. So close, Sunrise. I don't know why it wouldn't. Okay. Well, we're going to pay our $110, but we're not paying $110. We have to subtract the $11. You know what? It doesn't even let us pay a different amount, does it? Okay, so we can't do this at all. Boy, this is going to create a nightmare in Sunrise. Okay, you can't. That's important. You cannot short. So when you pay a bill but you don't pay the entire amount, that's calling short pay. That's something businesses need to do all the time. So you cannot short pay a bill in Sunrise. That's problematic. Okay, let's see. But we got to do something here. So I tell you what, let's go into this $110. And let's edit it. And let's just, boy, I mean, this is not 10 widgets at $11 each, less $11 credit. So we're going to pay so we're paying $99. So we're paying $99. Okay. So let's look at our transactions here. So this is a mess. Okay. So our cash account is correct because we recorded the payment correct, but our inventory account is incorrect because we've got this credit note sitting here. So now we have to delete this credit note. So we've used the credit note by offsetting the account payable manually by recording a smaller expense. But now this is going to misstate our inventory. And so we need to delete this transaction. So let's go to our expenses. Unpaid. We need to get rid of this credit. So let's void this credit. Okay. Go back to expenses. Unpaid. We actually paid the $99, so I think we just forgot to enter that in there, but let's go ahead and enter the payment now. And we paid it on February 15th. Okay, So this was a big fail for Sunrise. Um, so um, can we apply the can we apply the vendor credit um, to a new invoice? We cannot. Can we short pay? We cannot. Okay, so that was it for chapter 2. So Sunrise does a good job in like just the very basic stuff, but as soon as you start getting into any complications like trying to track the cost of inventory or recording credits from your vendor, so it lets you record a credit, but it doesn't let you do anything with the credit. There's no way to apply that credit to the bills you're paying him. So I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with the credit when you get it recorded. So very strange. Okay, well, good. So that completes the rubric for chapter 2 of our case study.